You have. It's been wonderful having someone to help. Another woman, I mean.
Yes, it is. Although, I don't think I shall ever get used to having to go down to the bathroom every time I want some water for something.
It is primitive, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Looking after one man is really enough, but two is rather an undertaking.
Oh, Cliff looks after himself. He helps me quite a lot, actually.
Can't say I noticed it.
You'd been doing it instead, I suppose.
I see.
You've settled in so easily somehow.
Why shouldn't I?
That's not exactly what you're used to.
And are you used to it?
Things seem very different now that you're here.
Does it?
Yes, I was on my way before, and
Now you've got me.
Yeah.
So you're not sorry you asked me to stay?
Of course not. Did you tell him that the tea was ready?
I banged onto the door to Cliff's room and yelled. He must have heard but didn't answer. I don't know where Cliff is.
I thought I'd feel cooler after a bath, but I feel hot already. I wish I'd lose that damn trumpet!
I imagine that's for my benefit.
Mrs. Drury will ask us to go soon, I know it. Thank God she's in and just listen to him.
Does he drink?
He's not an alcoholic, if that's what you mean.
It's almost as if he wanted to kill someone with it. And me in particular. I've never seen such hatred in someone's eyes before. It's slightly horrifying. And oddly exciting.
He had his own jazz band once, when he was still a student, before I met him. I sometimes feel that he would like to give up on the sweet stall and start one altogether.
Is Cliff in love with you?
No, I don't think so.
And what about you? You look as though I've asked you a rather peculiar question. You know, with the way things are, you might as well just be frank with me. I only want to help. After all, your behavior together is a little strange. By most people's standards, to say the least.
You mean you've seen us embracing each other?
Well, it doesn't seem to go on much as it did, I admit. Perhaps he finds my presence inhibiting, even if it isn't Jimmy's.
We're simply fond of each other. There's nothing more to it than that.
Darling, really? It can't be as simple as that.
You mean there must be something physical too? I suppose there is, but it isn't exactly a consuming passion with the both of us. It's more like a relaxed, cheerful thing, like being warm in bed. You're too comfortable to move for the sake of any other pleasure.
I find it difficult to believe anybody's that lazy.
I think we are.
And what about Jimmy? Are you trying to tell me that he actually approves of it?
It isn't easy to explain. It's what he would call a question of allegiances, and he expects you to be pretty literal about them, not only about himself and the things that he believes in, but his past, his future, his present, all the people he's admired and loved, all the people I've never known and probably wouldn't have liked, his fatherhood, even the other women he's loved. Do you understand?
Do you?
I've tried to, but I still can't bring myself to feel the way Jimmy does about things. I can't believe that he's right somehow.
Well, that's something anyway.
If things have worked out with Cliff, it's because he's so kind and lovable. I've been genuinely fond of him. With Hugh, it was different. Hugh Tanner, Jimmy and him were childhood best friends. Mrs. Tanner is his mother.
Yes, the one who started him off with the sweet business.
That's right. Well, after Jimmy and I were married, we had no money, about £8.10 in actual fact, and no home. He didn't even have a job. He just not left. Nobody leaves Jimmy's university. According to him, it's not even red brick, but white tile. Anyway, I found myself at Hugh's flat. It was a warehouse in Poplar.
Yes, I remember seeing the postmark on your letters.
That was where I found myself on the wedding night. Hugh and I disliked each other on sight, and Jimmy knew it. But he was so proud of us both, so pathetically anxious that we should get at each other like a child showing off his toys. The three of us tried to get tight on some cheap port they'd brought in. Hugh got more and more subtly insulting, and Jimmy got steadily depressed, and I just sat there looking and feeling very stupid. For the first time in my life, I was away from the kind of people I'd always known. And I'd burnt my boats. After all those weeks of brawling with Mommy and Daddy about Jimmy, I knew I couldn't appeal to them without looking foolish and cheap. Nigel was busy getting himself into the parliament. He had no time for anyone else but his constituents. Oh, he would have been sweet and kind.
Darling, why didn't you come to me?
You were on tour in some play, I think.
So I was.
Those next few months in the flat in Poplar were a nightmare. I suppose I must be soft and squeamish and snobbish, but I felt as though I was dropped in a jungle. Helena, I couldn't believe that two educated people could be so savage and so uncompromising. Mommy's always said Jimmy's utterly ruthless, but she hasn't met Hugh. Hugh takes the first prize for ruthlessness. Together, they were frightening. They seemed to regard me as some sort of hostage from the upper sections of society. They declared war.
How were you living all this time?
I had a tiny bit coming in from a few shares I'd left. Mommy had made me sign everything else over to her in trust when she knew that I was finally going to marry Jimmy.
Just as well, I imagined.
They soon thought a way out of that, by the way. Brilliant campaign. They started inviting themselves through me to people's houses. Friends of Nigel's, friends of Daddy's, the Oxons, the Tarnots, the Waynes. Not the Waynes. Everyone. You people must have been a few we missed out on. It was like enemy territory to them. And as I say, they used me as a hostage. We'd set out from headquarters and carry out raids in W1, SW1, SW8, W8 in my name. We'd gate crash everywhere. Cocktails, weekends, even a couple of house parties sometimes. I used to hope that one day somebody would have the guts to slam the door on our faces, but no one did. They were too well-bred and probably sorry for me even. Jimmy and Hugh despised them for it, so we went on, plundering them, wolfing their food and smoking their cigars like ruffians. Oh, they enjoyed themselves.
I don't understand you, honey. You must have been crazy?
Crazy? I wasn't crazy. I was afraid more than anything.
You know, it's almost unbelievable. I don't understand your part in it at all. Why? That's what I don't see. Why did you marry him?
Marry him? That's an interesting question. Well, after the family came back from India, everything was unsettled. Daddy seemed remote and irritable, and Mommy, well, you know Mommy. I didn't have much to worry about. I didn't know that I was born, as Jimmy says. I met him at a party. I remember it so clearly. I was almost 21. The men there all looked as though they distrusted him, and as for the women, they were keen on showing their contempt to this rather odd creature. But no one seemed quite sure how to do it. He'd come to the party in a bicycle, he told me, and there was oil all over his dinner jacket. It had been a lovely day, and he was out in the sun. Everything about him seemed to burn. His face, the edges of his hair glistened and sprung up his head, and his eyes were so blue and so full of sun. He looked so young and frail in spite of the tired line of his mouth. I knew I was taking on more than I was ever capable of bearing, but there never seemed to be any choice. The astonishment from the family went up, and that did it. Whether or not Jimmy was in love with me, that did it. He made up his mind to marry me. The family did just about everything to stop us.
Yes, it wasn't a very pleasant business, but you can see their point.
Jimmy went into the battlefield with his axe swinging from his head, so frail and full of fire. I'd never seen anything like that. You know the old tale of the knight in shining armor? Except that his armor wasn't shining very bright.
And what about Hugh?
Things got steadily worse. Him and Jimmy went off to some of Nigel's political meetings and took bunches of their popular cronies with them and tried to break things up for him.
He's really a savage, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He later decided that he must go to China or some godforsaken place to write a novel. He said, England was finished for us. All the old gang is back. Dame Alison's mob. He wanted us to go with him, but Jimmy refused to go. There was a terrible, bitter fight over it. Sometimes I feel Hugh's mother blames me for it all. Jimmy too, in a way, although he's never said so. But whenever that woman looks at me, Helena, I can feel her thinking, if it hadn't been for you, we'd all been happy. We'd all been all right. Not that I dislike her. I don't. She's a really sweet lady. Jimmy seems to adore her principally because she was poor all her life and frankly ignorant. I know how foolish that sounds, but it happens to be the truth.
Alison, listen to me. You've got to make up your mind what you're going to do. You're going to have a baby. You have a new responsibility. Before it was different. It was only yourself at stake. But you can't go on living like this any longer.
I'm so tired. I dread him coming to the room.
Why haven't you told him you're going to have a child?
I don't know. It's his, all right. The child is his. There's no doubt about that. You see, I've never really wanted someone else.
Alison, listen to me. You've got to tell him. Either he learns to behave like anyone else and looks after you, or you must get out of this madhouse, this menagerie. He doesn't seem to know what love or anything else means.
You see that bear and that squirrel? That's him and that's me.
Meaning?
The game we play. Bears and squirrels, squirrels and bears. Well, that's him. That's me.
I didn't realize he was a bit fey as well as everything else.
There's nothing fey about Jimmy. It's all we seem to have left or had left. Even bears and squirrels seem to have gone their own way now.
Since I arrived?
It all started in those few months we had left alone in the flat in Poplar. It was the only way of... Now even they are dead. Poor little animals. They were all love and no brains.
Alison. Listen. You've got to fight him. Fight or get out. Otherwise he will kill you, don't you see?
There you are, darling. Hello. You ready?
Yes, give him a call, will you?
Hey, you! Hey! Stop that bloody noise and come and get a tea! Stop that bloody noise! Going out?
Yes.
Pictures?
No. Church.
Oh, I see. Both of you?
Yes. Are you coming?
Well, I haven't read my papers properly yet. Tea. Let's have some tea, shall we? Oh, boy, come and have a tea. That blinking trumpet. Why don't you do something of it?
Oh, you like it all right. Anyone who doesn't like real jazz hasn't any feeling either for music or for people.
Rubbish.
That seems to prove my point for you. Did you know that Webster played the bongo?
No, does it really?
He said he'd bring it along next time he came.
Oh no.
Why is it that nobody knows how to treat the papers in this place? Look at them.
Well, can I look at your new...
No, you can't. You want anything, you pay for it, like I have to.
Price 9 pence obtainable from any book stall. You are a mean old man, that's what you are.
What do you want to read it for anyway? You have no intellect, no curiosity, it all just washes over you, am I right?
Right.
What are you Welsh trash?
Nothing, that's what I am.
Nothing, are you?
Yeah.
Blimey, you ought to be Prime Minister. You must be talking to some of my wife's friends. They are a very intellectual set, aren't they? I've seen them. They all sit around feeling very spiritual with their mental hands on each other's knees, discussing sex as if it were the art of fugue. If you don't want to be an emotional old spinster, just you listen to your dad. You know your trouble, son. Too anxious to please.
Thank heaven somebody is.
You will end up like one of those chocolate meringues my wife is so fond of. My wife. That's the one on the tom-toms down there. Sweet and sticky on the outside and sink your teeth in it. Inside all white, messy and disgusting. Tea?
Thank you.
That's how you will end up, my boy. Black-hearted, evil-minded and vicious.
Thank you.
And those old favorites, your friends and mine. Sycophantic, phlegmatic, and of course, drop the bill, pusillanimous.
Darling, aren't you going to have your tea?
I won't be...
You can quit hanging around my counter, Mildred, because you'll find my position is closed. Good?
Very good.
Thought you'd like it. If I can slip in a religious angle in there, it should be a big hit. Don't you think so, Helena? I was thinking you might help me there. It might help you if I recite the lyrics. Let's see now, it's something like this. I'm so tired of necking, pecking, home wrecking, up empty bed blues, just pass me the booze. I'm tired of being hetero, rather ride on metro, just pass me the booze. This perpetual whoring gets quite dull and boring, so avoid that old python coil and pass me the celibate well. You can quit, etc. No?
Very good boy. Very good.
Why do you try so hard to be unpleasant?
What's that?
Do you have to be so offensive?
You mean now? You think I'm being offensive? You underestimate me. Doesn't say.
I think you're a very tiresome young man.
Oh dear, my wife's friends. Pass Lady Bracknell the cucumber sandwiches, will you? Going out
That's right.
on a Sunday evening in this town. Where on earth are you going?
I'm going out with Helena.
That's not a direction, baby. That's an affliction. I didn't ask you what was the matter with you. I asked you where you were going.
She's going to church.
You doing what? Have you gone out of your mind or something? You determined to win her, aren't you? So it has come to this now. How feeble can you get? When I think of what I did, what I endured to get you out
Yes,
of
we
that
know
house.
what you did for me. You rescued me from the wicked clutches of my family and friends. I'd still be rotting away somewhere, hadn't you ridden up your charger and carried me off?
Well, the funny thing is, I really did have to ride up on White Charles. Off-white, really. Mummy locked up in 8-bedroom castle, didn't she? Oh, there's no limit to what the middle-aged mummy will do in the holy crusade against ruffians like me. Mummy and I took one quick look at each other, and from then on, the age of chivalry was dead. I knew that to protect her innocent young, she wouldn't hesitate to cheat, lie, bully, or blackmail. Threatened with me, a young man meant without money, background, or even looks. To bellow like a rhinoceros in labor, enough to make every male runner for miles turn white and pledge himself through celibacy. Well, but even I underestimate her strength. Mummy may look overfed and a bit flabby on the outside, but don't let that well-bred guzzler fool you. Underneath all that, she's armor-plated. She's as rough as a knight in a Bombay brothel and as tough as a matlet's arm. She's probably in that bloody system, taking down every word we say. Can you hear me, mother? Just about get out of here. Now, if my wife is honest or concerned enough to explain, she could tell that this is not due to any dark, unnatural instincts I possess, but because A, I can usually think of better things than a haircut to spend 2 bob on, and B, I prefer long hair. But that obvious, innocent explanation didn't appeal to Mummy at all, so she hires detectives to watch me, to see if she can somehow get me into the news of the world. Also that I sent carrier for daughter on that poor old Tarzan of mine, all tricked out in comparison and discredited passions and ideals. The old grey mare that actually once led the charge against the old order. Well, she certainly ain't what she used to be, but it was all she could do to carry me. But your weight, Alison, darling, was too much for her. She just dropped dead on the way, didn't she?
Come on, don't let's brawl, boy. It won't do anything.
Why don't we brawl? That's the only thing left I'm any good at.
Simply don't.
You've let this genuflecting sin jobber win you over, haven't you? She's got you back, hasn't she?
For heaven's sake, don't be such a bully. You have no rights to talk about her mother like that.
I've got every right. That old bitch should be dead. But aren't I right? I said she's an old bitch, and she should be dead. What's the matter with you? Why don't you leap to her?
Jimmy, don't!
You sit there. Sit there.
Don't!
Sit there! If someone said something like that about me, she would react soon enough. She would spring into a well-known lethargy and say nothing. I say she ought to be dead. My gosh, those worms. Those worms will need a good dose of salts the day they get through her. Oh, what a bellyache you've got coming to you, my little wormy ones. Alison's mother is on the way. She will pass away, my friends, leaving a trail of worms, gasping for laxatives from purgatives to purgatory.
I feel rather sick, that's all. Sick with contempt and loathing.
One day, when I'm no longer spending my days running a sweet stall, I may write a book about us all. It's all in here, written in flames a mile high, and it won't be recollected in tranquility either, picking daffodils with Auntie Wordsworth. It will be recollected in fine blood, my blood.
She simply said she's going to church with me. I don't see why it calls for this incredible outburst.
Oh, don't you? Perhaps you're not as clever as I thought then.
You think the world's treated you pretty badly,
Don't try and take his suffering away from him, darling. He'd be lost without it.
I thought this play you're touring in finished up on Saturday week, Helena.
That's right.
Oh, that's 8 days ago, in fact.
Alison wanted me to stay.
What are you plotting? Vindictive, aren't you? Will you stop that bloody noise? What's the matter with you? Now, why are you letting her influence you like this?
Why? That word, Jimmy, is pulling my head off.
Oh, is it? And as long as you're around, I'll go on using it. The last time she was in church was when she was married to me. I expect that surprises you, doesn't it? It was expediency, pure and simple. We're in a hurry, you see. Yes, we're actually in a hurry, lusting for the slaughter. I'm not sure what happened after that. We must have been married, I suppose. I remember being sick in the vestry, was I?
Haven't you finished?
Are you going to let yourself be taken in by this Saint Indio's clothing? I will tell you the simple truth about her. She is a cow. A cow! I wouldn't mind that so much, but she seems to have become a sacred cow as well.
You've gone too far, Timmy. Now dry up!
We'll let him go on.
I suppose you're going over to that side as well. Why don't you? Helena will help make it pay off for you. She's an expert in the new economics. The economics of the supernatural. It's all a simple matter of payment and penalties. You see, I know Helena and her kind so very well. In fact, her kind are everywhere. You can't move for them. No. They are a romantic lot. They spend their time mostly looking forward to the past. She has moved long ago into a lovely little cortex of the soul, cut right off from ugly problems of the 20th century altogether. She prefers to be cut off from all the conveniences we've fought to get for centuries. She would rather go down to the ecstatic little shed at the bottom of the garden to relieve a sense of guilt. Our Helena is full of ecstatic wind, aren't you?
It's a pity you've been so far away all this time. I would probably have slapped your face. You've behaved like this ever since I first came.
Helena, have you ever watched somebody die? No, don't move away. It doesn't look dignified enough for you.
If you come any nearer, I will slap your face.
I hope you wouldn't make the mistake of thinking for one moment that I'm a gentleman.
I'm not very likely to do that.
I have no public school scruples about hitting girls. If you slap my face, by God, I will lay you out.
You probably would. You're the type.
You bet I'm the type. I'm the type that detests the physical violence. Which is why, if I find some woman trying to cash in on with what she thinks is my defenseless chivalry by lashing out with a frail little fist, I lash back at her.
Is that meant to be subtle or just plain Irish?
I think you and I... For 12 months, I watched my father die when I was 10 years old. He had come back from the war in his pain, you see. And certain God-fearing gentlemen there had made such a mess of him. He didn't have long left to live. Everyone knew it. Even I knew it. But you see, I was the only one who cared. His family were embarrassed by the whole business. Embarrassed and irritated. As for my mother, all she could think about was the fact that she had allied herself to a man who seemed to be on the wrong side of all things. My mother was all for being associated with minorities, provided they were the smart and fashionable ones. of us waited for him to die. The family sent him a check every month and hoped he would get on with it quietly. Not too much vulgar fuss. My mother looked after him without complaining. And that was about all. Perhaps he pitied him. I suppose he was capable of that. But you see, I was the only one who cared. Every time I sat on the edge of his bed to listen to him talking or reading to me, I had to fight back my tears. And at the end of 12 months, I was a veteran. All that feverish failure of a man had to listen to was a small, frightened boy. I spent hour upon hour in that tiny bedroom. He talked to me for hours, pouring out all that was left of his life to one lonely, bewildered little boy who could barely understand half of what he said. All he could feel was the despair, the bitterness, the sweet and sickly smell of a dying man. You see, I learnt at an early age what it was to be angry and helpless. I can never forget it. I knew more about love, betrayal, and death when I was 10 years old than you'll probably ever know all your life.
Time we went. I'll go get my things. I'll see you downstairs, Alison.
Doesn't it matter to you what people do to me? You Judas, you phlegm. She's taking you, and you're so bloody feeble you let her do it.
All I want is a little peace, please.
Peace. She wants peace. My heart is so full. I feel ill, and she wants peace. I shout my head up, and everyone thinks, poor chap, what an objectionable young man, but that girl there can twist your arm up with her silence. I've sat there in the dark for hours, and although she knows I'm feeling as I feel now, but she's turned over and gone to sleep. One of us is crazy. One of us is mean and is stupid and crazy. Which is it, Cliff? Which is it? Is it me? Is it me standing here like an hysterical girl, hardly able to get my words out? Is it her? Sitting there putting on her shoes to go out with that bitch? I wish to heavens you'd try loving me, that's all. Perhaps one day you may want to come back, huh? I shall wait for that day. I want to stand up in your tears and splash about in them and sing. I want to be there when you grow up. I want to be there. I want to watch it. I want the front seat. I want to see your face rubbed in the mud. That's all I can hope for. There's nothing else I want any longer.
There's a phone call for you.
Well, it can't be for anything good, can it?
Already? You sure you're all right? What's he been raving about now? What does it matter? He makes me want to claw his hair out by the roots. When I think of what you'll be going through in a few months' time and all for him, it's as if you've done him wrong. These men. And all this time, you just sit there and do nothing.
That's right. I'll just sit here.
What's the matter with you? What kind of a man are you?
I'm not a district commissioner, you know. Listen, Helena. I didn't feel like Jimmy does about you, but it exactly doesn't mean that I'm on your side either. Since you have been here, everything's certainly been worse than it has ever been. This has always been a battlefield. But I'm pretty certain if I would not have been here, everything would have been over with me. Sometimes it's a still and peaceful, no incidents. We have all been reasonably happy. But most of the time it's simply a very narrow strip of plain hell. But the place where I come from, I'm used to brawling and excitement. I even love to be in the thick of it. I love these two people very much. And I pity all of us.
Are you including me in that? I don't understand him, you, or any of this. All I know is that none of you seems to know how to behave in a decent, civilized way. Listen, Alison, I've sent your father a wire.
Oh.
Look, dear, you'll get it first thing in the morning. I thought it was better than trying to explain the situation over the phone. I've asked him to come up and fetch you home tomorrow.
What did you say?
Simply that you wanted to go home and would he come up for you?
I see.
I knew that would be quite enough. I told him there was nothing to worry about so that they don't think there's been an accident or anything. I had to do something. You didn't mind, did you?
No, I don't mind.
And you will go when he comes for you?
Yeah, I'll go.
I expect he'll drive up. He should be here in about tea time. That'll give you plenty of time to get your things together. And perhaps after you've gone, Jimmy will come up to his senses and finally face up to things.
It's Hugh's mother.
Jimmy, you're
She has
right.
She has had a stroke.
How bad is it?
Sorry.
They didn't say much, but I think she's dying.
Oh dear.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Do you think it does?
I'm sorry, I really am.
Anything I can do?
London train goes in half an hour. You better order me a
Do
taxi.
you want me to come with you?
No, it's not for you to go.
Yeah?
After all, you hardly knew. Pass me my jacket, will you? I remember the first time I showed her your photograph. Just after we were married. She looked at it and tears just welled up in her eyes. And she said, "But she's so beautiful, she's so beautiful." She kept repeating it as if she couldn't believe it. Sounds of it simple and sentimental when you repeat it. But it was pure gold the way she said it. You're coming with me, aren't you? She's got no one else left now. Alison? Alison, please.
Let's go.